Welcome to the Language of Markets live session. It is the 10th of July. All right? Yeah. It's Wednesday. Welcome back. Good to see everybody. All right, let's see what we can learn today. We're going to learn something. Morning, Grace. We're going to, I have a few questions from people that I'm going to answer, but we're going to continue with our swings. So just a reminder, we're going to be working on swings and presses. I would like to work us into designing a practice so we can design our own practice with swings. And so I want to make sure we have it down because it's not always as easy as it looks. Not always, but it's very good practice and it gets us in tune with the markets as long as we follow. So we're going to continue on that. And it's simple, but it can be a bit tricky. All right? So we're going to end up looking at the market with just very simple waves, simple swings, and we're going to use presses. And we're not even focused on the presses right now. We're not even focused on the presses. So let's go around our markets a little bit here. Got lots to do today. Let me hit some questions first. First question, I was asked about my formation tool. So let's see if I can get it up here. And I'm going to be doing, for those of you who have Ensign, I'm going to be doing a sort of an Ensign setup video that you can see how to set up the lines. Hey, Becca. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown. I was asked about the settings for my formation tool. But I'm going to do a little video, and we'll put it in the free resources section of the site. So for my risk-reward, it's risk-reward, right? For my risk-reward formations tool, under set studies, let me just run this down real quick. Or is it under lines? I don't know. I hit F and it goes. All right, so let's just do this. And it's called a formations tool in Ensign, okay? And on one of my tabs, so it's called the formations tool. It's a measured move tool, basically. And so on one of my tabs, I have it set up to give me risk reward. So I can check out my stop and my target. And these are the settings here, right? Make sure you click risk reward. Each one of these tabs I can set to something different. And so I just say the A to B wave, red, B to C wave, boom. You got to put this little sign in here, give you dollars. And so this is going to give me a risk reward and a risk reward ratio. So for instance, if I wanted to get a risk reward, let's say I wanted to buy this, I'm going to get a stop down here. And so you can see it will automatically begin to set up, okay, that's 4 ticks. And in this particular instrument, it's going to cost me $200. And then I can stretch this up till I reach 3 to 1. That's a ratio of 2.11. And so now I have 3 to 1. So if I decided to get long in here, and these are the settings for that particular tool. It's pretty cool, right? Edward says, all right, Shane versus Howard. Edward, tell me if, I don't know, does anybody know if I can put my own hex code for a color in here? Or is that something somebody's got to argue with Howard? You can? How? We're going to get to the lesson, and I was trying to figure this out. So the hex code will do the color, right? No, I want to actually put the code in, not pick the color. I want to put the FF. You have to change the setting to manual color. All right, somebody's going to have to enlighten me here. Raj, how do I change the setting to manual color? Use the other color thing. You guys aren't any help. Use the tingum. It's right over there. Hit the tingum over there. In preferences? Right. Where's preferences? Help me out here. I see no stinking preferences. See, this is what it's been like with the website for hours, right? Grace says, I'm Mac girl, all right? Yeah, I know, you're on the Mac. All right, well, maybe one of you guys can send me something and enlighten me. You'll find the setting and post it? All right, thank you, Raj. Or send it to me or something. Because I'd like to put the hex code in here and choose my own color. All right, now I do risk reward in another way also. So this is using the formations tool, which is under your tools someplace. It's basically I hit F, so I got like hotkeys for my thing. So I hit F, and I can do like a measured move, see? But if I roll my wheel, I get the formations tool. So it's in that setting. All right. Now the other way I do risk reward, and this is for you guys using Ensign. I'm going to do a little video. Is I use the parallel tool. Okay. And my parallel tool is set up like this. So it's automatically set up at -300, all right, to give me my 3, and then 100 to give me my 3 to 1 here. And these are my settings. So just remember to put that little guy in. Choose your colors, choose your numbers, and that's it. Yeah, you got to think like Howard to find it, right? All right, so those are the settings. Got it, Becca? I'm going to do a little video on this. There was an old one on the old site, but I'm going to do a new one. Heck, as long as we're here, it's getting kind of interesting, right? All right, we're going to keep an eye on this guy. We're going to keep an eye on this guy. Maybe it offers us a telegram. Okay, next question. So somebody sent me a chart. All right, and looks like this. And a question. And then we're going to get to work, because I want us to design a routine. But I want to hit some of these questions first. I appreciate you guys asking me questions. But I really want to get into designing a practice for swings. And it looks like he's getting the things here. So he says he loves the classes. He's doing his homework. On the chart, he's put some pressure cookers and presses. I do, however, have doubts regarding the first press at the top. Okay. The smaller swing in between is disturbing. And he's just asking, how he's doing with things. So this is good. I want there to be practice. All right, I want there to be practice. And a little bit of futzing around and rolling around and trying to figure it out. All right, so pressure cooker, yay, all good, right? Remember pressure cooker, swing. All having to do with swings. Follow it back underneath. This is where it took off. Whoosh. Landed. And then you have either a type 1, type 2, or it looks like it did a type 3. So pressure cooker's all good here. This, we want our pressure cookers, we want to look for significant ones. We want to look for the pressure cooker to be somewhere around at least halfway up the leg. Not at the bottom, because that's a different structure, okay? See, this is at the top. So we want our pressure cookers, if you're looking at a pressure cooker, we want our pressure cookers to, price is coming down, okay? So imagine this, price is coming down, and it's giving us a little bit of a try to swing. And then it goes, all right? If it happens up here, it's a different piece of language that we haven't gone over yet, and we will. It's a different word in the language. So if we were to do this like this, the pressure cooker would actually be like, okay, new low. Where did it fall from? Now you see it trying. See this? That would be it. Okay? For that swing. Does that make sense to everybody? And it's good that we work some of these little details out, because we want it to be in that neighborhood. See the little triangle? Right? We want it to give that little try and that give up. See, this gives up right at the top. Different. It's a different thingy. It's a different tingum. All right, so that's a little bit on pressure cookers. Now, we're leaving pressure cookers. So I know he's new and he's reviewing some things, but we're leaving pressure cookers, and we're going to see in presses. But it's interesting to see that the pressure cooker up produced a pressure cooker down. You know, basically a type, remember how we went over this? A type 3 or a brand new type 1. All right? So on the next thing, it looks like he has the press right, but let's make sure we do this by the numbers, because we don't want to kid ourselves. So press is going to be 2 swings, about the same size, right? About the same size. They pull back into each other and then expand. Okay, so he did good there. See, remember our pressure cookers, they're all in the same domain. And so he did good with this. And that becomes our press. And that would be a type 1 cell related to the press. So very good. And then you have a smaller press to the upside. Yes. See? Boom, boom, expand. And you can see you get a little reaction, and then it comes back through. But you can see it within the context of the big boy press. So everybody following this? So it's this ability to map that lets us get a handle on what we're going to do. So we're going to mix swings with things. All right, so we're going to mix swings and say presses. Swings and presses. 2 things. That's it. We're not really going to look at pressure cookers or anything else, or gaps, or we can add that stuff in stages, but we're going to look at swings and presses. Hey, Rebecca, you don't hear anything? Is there audio? No, that's you, Rebecca. I think everybody's working. Maybe you can bump out, bump back in, pour some coffee on your computer. Send her a message. Pour some coffee on it. It'll work. I'm telling you, that works. No charge. All right. Now, swings and presses. One thing I'm going to want you to see here in this chart is Well, if you were able to identify the pressure cooker, you were able to identify the swing, right? So you want to see, boom, boom, about the same, pretty close. Pretty close how that worked out. All right, very good. Now, this is a very small one. It's a minor one, okay? But in the context, this minor one in a downswing is something I do maybe a bump gift off of or leave it alone or whatever. Now, let's go further. He's got one more chart in this series, and he says, I ended up in a trade that I'm still writing. I like my messy charts. They make me feel that I know what I'm doing. Ha ha ha. A Russian doll pivot, okay. So let's look at what he's doing. And I do suggest we learn to focus a little bit. I like what he's doing, right? He calls this a Russian doll pivot. This is a wash and rinse, right? Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 right? Seller, 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 sellers. Open the door. Boom, boom, boom. Close it back up. Boom, let them back in. So this is good, right? If we do too much, we're going to confuse ourselves a bit. So look, we have this pressure cooker. Don't know what this is. Right, this one, this one, this one, this one. I love the short. All right. Let's clean this up so we have a clean look at this short. All right, so let's clean this up a little bit so we have a clean look at that short. That was a New Zealand Swissy? Oh, we're getting weird for sure now. New Zealand Swissy? All right. So one of the things that I want for everybody, that I'm trying to do, and that I see with students over and over and over, is we do too much. We get a little overwhelmed, and then we get a little confused, right? We start confusing one thing with another thing, and, you know, and it gets to be too much, and it gets hard to make a rational decision, which is why we're going to do a little focus. Very simply, we're going to, what's the biggest swing on the board? That guy, right? Reaction leg, impulse leg, reaction leg. Okay, very simply, what's the biggest swing on the board? So, very simply, if you're set up with this chart like this, and I know it seems stupid to just be this simple. We want to do all kinds of work. I know you guys are going to have to just find this out for yourself, and I'm just going to keep bringing us back to simple. And we can add one more thing, right? We can add the presses. Okay, we can add the press. So two things. So notice I'm leaving out everything else. Just swings, same size, presses, and I'm considering trades based on swings, and I can do minors. I could do minors. Okay, the minor got beat. Okay. And I can do majors. And then on the way up, I can do minors. And I can do majors. See, on the way up, right, I can follow. So let's look at how we might be able to get into this short with a very simple view. He took the trade. I love him for it. He took the trade, he hit it, he did his thing. So if we're following it down, then we're following it back up, and I'm going to give some more instructions for this in a bit. And we're watching swings. We're just watching swings, okay? Swings. Okay, we're swinging up. We're swinging up. We're swinging up into this. These swings. This is kind of an odd bar, but it's about like that, right? Now, see the same thing we did here? Well, now the red got beat. Now we can go the other way to think about entries, because this is telling us, see, this is what the pressure cooker was teaching us. We can't do it. Buyers are just not there. Same thing here, right? Buyers are just not there. Buyers were here. They made a new high. That's why it was confirmed. Buyers are just not there. And then boom, right? So do you see that this is now, the orange here is the same as the blue. And this is where you got short, 4 possible entries. Yes. And does it all match with the level? Yeah. Now, as we do our training in this kind of a thing, right, a lot of this stuff is just going to soak into our bones, and you're not even going to have to think about it. We're not doing this today, but if you add too much, see, this isn't much, is it? This is a simple view. You have to wait a few days for a trade. And, basically you're looking at, new lows, somewhere, maybe somewhere along here. Like so. Or, you're playing for an expansion. I mean, you never know which. I mean, price is kind of working up. Or you're playing for an expansion. And then we follow. And then we follow. Then you get your new lows. And, right, swing. Swing. That's all we're doing is we're swinging. The red is the same as the blue. So it's using a combination of red and blue here. And then anytime it turns up, you put your line back up here. And you measure against it. And that's current. All right, so that'll be interesting. So we'll leave a little marker here so we can follow and track this. And then we can start to add presses into the mix when we see them. All right? We can start to add. I know in a lot of these sessions, I'll start out and I'll show a lot of detail because there is a lot of things to see and learn on a chart. But there does get to be a point where it's too much. Right? We can all only handle so much at one time. And so then we practice. And then we practice. So this will be curious. We'll watch and see. And some of this will lead into line work for us as well. I think he had a median line drawn like this. And price has a high probability of reaching the median line. That's what it does. One extreme, back to the center. Boom, boom. Okay? So we'll keep an eye on this guy. Any questions? Do you see that? Does everybody get the sort of simple view we get out of this? We'll throw this up here to track. See, we're getting a lot of charts to look at now. Because we're going to practice this a little bit more. I'd like to design this as some sort of routine to, get us set up and hooked into some markets. And if you've been following me with, now I'm going to do this for some of the tick traders here. if you've been following me, on Monday we did this. So let's just, a little practice. And then we left it off somewhere right around here. So you can see that one turned. And then you put that over here. And you can see, that one got beat. So now you can start to see new swings. And notice I'm not really, we can follow this on the way up. And I'm not promoting entries or anything yet. I'm promoting let's all learn to do this, and then we'll start to even see and think about entries. And then, anytime it pulls back, you just check out and see if it's going to run that length. Okay, it's not perfect, but not bad either. And then anytime it pulls back, we'll see if it's going to run that length. So now we're following up and down. And so now we're getting very interesting here, right? Very interesting. All right, you guys are quiet. Everybody with me? You guys following along? Because now we're going to start to write some instructions down for some of this. Sir, yes, sir. Just checking. Just checking. Okay, so it's really all in swings, all right? If we can start to work out our swings and understand the structure, we can start to get together how we need to trade. Let's grab a chart again. We'll grab this euro. And we'll do a little work. And I want to explain a little bit also the whys. All right, so we're going to go from kind of that, and we're going to try to design a practice we can do. We're going to design a little practice we can do with following swings. And then we'll spend some more time with our presses. So, and I want to talk a little bit about the whys as well. So let's go ahead and mark some of this out again. This is the reaction leg. This is the impulse leg. And it's very important that we understand that major is largest reaction leg in the frame, in the data frame. Minor is next largest. Because we can always fall back on this. So we're going to have minor. We're going to have major. The other components we're going to have in here are reaction leg, impulse leg, LSB. All right, so these are the components. Okay? Now, basically. We're going to follow these. We're also going to follow any minors. It is important we start to really understand our language and get it straight. Major reaction leg. Major. So this is all part of the major impulse leg, all of it. And then here we'll have a separate minor. So I want to do this because we want to design a practice. It does no good for me to just come up here and show trades. It's good to see that once in a while so you can see how I'm utilizing it. But I want to teach everybody how you guys can do it. And we're not at the entries yet, but we do want to understand all of this. So we want to know what that's our minor, that's our minor, that's our minor impulse leg, that's our minor impulse leg. All right. So I'm also going to say follow major and minor reaction legs. But let's clean this language up. Follow major and minor reaction legs. That doesn't work. We're going to have to make this a separate thing. Follow major reaction leg. So we'll make a separate instruction here. Follow minor reaction it's going to get to be a mouthful, but that's all right. So we're going to follow the minor reaction leg. That's part of the major impulse leg. You with me, Edward? With me, Phil? Everybody with me so far? So we've gone from just following this, okay? We've gone from just following that to now we're going to follow, because now, you're with me, Pete? Good, because we're going to be doing this in real time. We have to do this in real time as well as practice. So we're going to follow the minor reaction leg. Now, I know this practice can get a little bit tedious and it can get a little bit confusing now that we're adding majors and minors, but that's okay. And I do understand if you're at a point where you're just sort of blanking over and you're not ready to do this yet, and that's fine. Keep working at it. Maybe just do the majors for a while and listen to the lessons. Sometimes we're just not ready to hop into a certain practice. It's just too much for us to wrap our minds around. And that's okay. That's normal, all right? Don't feel bad for that. There are some things I can't wrap my mind around. It's just, that's how it is. Don't worry about it. Practice at whatever level. If adding these start to confuse you, then just do the majors for a while and watch the lessons and, slowly work up to it. But don't feel bad if you're looking at the computer and say, I don't want to get up and do that today, and then beat yourself up over it. So this is practice. We're practicing. And what I want to do is design a little routine that we can do right off the bat to set our markets up. And when you start to get this, it becomes real easy. And then we'll start to work our way into entries and such. Okay? Now, So the minors we already know, they're the next biggest. So if price starts to turn up like this, what's going to be my next instruction? You guys think it through. And if you're home, think it through. These are the components. All right. So what's going to be my next instruction? So this way we always have a little set of instructions we can fall back on. Yeah, you know, once red gets beat, Grace, right? Red got beat, so now we're going to have to, so that's going to clue us in that we have one more thing to do. So now Nate says, minor reaction leg of the major reaction. Okay, so yeah, something like that. Follow reaction legs inside the major, yeah. So what we're going to do, and our first instruction, our first leg we're going to follow. This is where maybe transitions in the market and in life always get a little bit confusing. So the first thing we're going to look at for a leg, all right, is so we're going to say we're going to follow major and minor reaction legs of the major reaction leg. Okay? Follow major and minor reaction leg. So it's as if you took the chart and you ripped it right here. And now, you know, the instructions, actually we're going to rip it right here, okay? And the instructions are now, the biggest one on the board is the major, and the next biggest is the minor, all for this separate piece. So we're going to rip the chart, and we're going to use this definition in isolation of this major reaction leg. When minor gets beat, follow major and minor reactions of the major leg. Oh, I like that. I like that. We'll throw that in there. Thank you, Phil. It's a good thing I got you guys in here who are a lot smarter than me. So when minor gets beat, right, the red minor, as Grace said, red got beat. Let's switch. When minor gets beat, follow the major and minors of the major reaction leg. All right, not bad. We'll go with that. Four. Ripping hell. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? All right, so we are going to rip at a last swing broke here. Okay? So the very first swing we're going to use and then we'll go do some practice and you'll see how this lands. The first swing we'll use for a major will be the last swing broke. If available. Okay? There's not always a last swing broke, right? Now, one of the problems we're going to run into is we can't rule this thing to death, which is why there's going to be a little bit of gray area. Don't forget, this is all to teach us some things. This is all to teach us some things about the way price moves. Okay, so we're going to rip the chart. We're going to use the first one we're going to use here is the last swing broke. All right. Now, you don't have to go any farther than that and look for minors if you don't want to. All right? If you just want to stick with that, stick with that. So remember, we're looking ultimately for the length of this. Okay? So this is our LSB down here. Now, let me give you a reason why we're doing all this following like this. Hang on, let's add one more turn in the market, okay? Let's add one more turn to this thing. And then we're going to follow again back down. All right? Majors and minors. So you're seeing that this is really all just one swing. So we're taking swings to sort of an interesting level here. This is all one swing. All right? But we're looking at minors using the same deal. And one of the big reasons for this, and this is something I want you guys to get. It's something I get. It's something students get when they practice long enough. And it's one of the biggest lessons we can learn from this. It's learning how to change with change, fluidly. It's learning how to flow with change. So when you practice this, don't try to make it work. Don't try to make these always land perfect. Don't try to make these land perfect. Let the market carve out what it needs to carve out. But if it turns up, if it goes farther, okay, if it goes farther, right, and breaks this, so let's pretend this market did all of this and went up like this. Okay, that did not play out. Now what do? Well, we follow the other way, just like that. Did everybody get that part? You know, let's say you short in here, and then it rips up through here. Now, let's look realistically, right? What happens if we don't know how to change with change? We get stuck on this swing needs to hold, this swing. Or if you're shorting these, okay? So let's say you got this little LSB here, and you short this one, and you short this one, and you short this one, and then this one doesn't work. You get stopped out. What happens to us is we try to force this thing to happen, and we don't change with change. Of course, this can change again. This can change 3 or 4 times as it carves itself out. We don't learn to change with the flow. We need to let this stupid little swing go and come into this swing. How many times in a market have you not let that stupid little swing go and just kept forcing it? Anybody ever do that? Or it turned up, and many times, right? Because we get stuck. We get stuck. Our mind gets a little crazy. We get stuck. And through this practice, you're going to get pissed and frustrated, and you're going to say, oh, this worked, oh, this didn't work. And over time, you're going to learn to flow with change. Change up, change down. If it's going down and changes, follow it up. If it immediately changes again, follow it back down. You know what? If it turns from here, now you're following that swing that carved itself out. And you change. Adam says your confession doesn't count too many times. It's not a confession. It's normal human behavior. We don't let it go. You know, maybe it helps if I put this on a chart. You know, we just don't let it go. For instance, you saw me live. I'm hitting shorts, all right? I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm not going to go and be a time frame junkie, all right? I'm not going to go and look for more and more and more. I'm going to follow, and when price turns here and it doesn't fulfill, I don't want to get stuck. See, I don't want to get stuck. And I don't want to keep shorting. Oh, now I got a pressure cooker. Now I got a this. Now I got a that. Now I got a this. Now I got a that. See, I don't want to do that. Oh, this didn't work. Now I'm going to. No, I want to understand. Okay, now I've got a swing. I don't want to get stuck. Nate says, I think this also helps to realize when we don't understand and to wait for something that we understand. Yeah, one of the things, Nate, is as price does something, it generally starts out small and then needs to carve itself out. Okay? And we have routines for this that we'll introduce. You know, it starts out slow and needs to carve itself out. But I want to stay with this stuck thing. Because now I'm tilted up, right? Why? Because the market's tilted up. And if the market goes down again, guess what? I'll tilt, if the market goes down from here and makes new lows after it just made a new high, well, I'll have a brand new reaction leg to look at. And I don't want to get stuck. This is something I want you guys to ground somehow. Because we do this in life. We don't flow with things that are changing because we want things to stay or we want them the way we want them. You know, I don't know if this will relate, but I was thinking of something with myself the other day. I woke up in the middle of the night and realized how I got pretty much taken by some salesman there earlier that day. Right? This wakes me up in the middle of the night. Didn't even think about it. And I realized how I got taken by this salesman. Not taken, but I'm usually pretty good with this stuff. And it hit me, and I got to tell you, I was pissed. I'm in the middle of the night, right? I'm planning my revenge now. I was pissed. I wasn't letting this go. It all of a sudden hit me how this guy got the better of me. And I got real stuck on that for a while. And this is what happens in the market. It's like, this guy got the better of me. And you get stuck on that for a little while. It was enough to wake me up and bother me. And then, I got a laugh out of it later. Said, all right, good for him. He did his job. That's what he did. So I'm usually pretty good with salesmen. I usually read them pretty good. But this guy did me in a little bit. This guy, I'm plotting my revenge in the middle, 3 a.m. Tap into your inner slacker, yeah. But the point is, we do this in the market. If something doesn't work for us, it's almost like a personal slight. And we don't want to let that go. I know not everybody's going to relate to what I'm talking about, but you'll hear it if you listen. If we expect something in particular to work and it doesn't work, we need to learn to change fluidly with that. But it's hard. You can relate, Grace? Yeah, we need to learn to change fluid. It's almost like it falls into the whole thing of not wanting to be wrong. All right? But at some point, and this has to do with the internal side of trading, at some point there's only one thing to do with this. Because it's done. Right? It's done. There's nothing, you can't go back and change that. And there's only one thing to do with this, and that's to basically eat the bitter and ride that impulse. That's it. Some of you will get what I'm talking about. You feel like you just got had. Nobody likes to. Anybody got ripped off? There's just not much you could do about the situation. It gets your goat, doesn't it? Of course, right? It gets your goat. Yeah, oh yeah, right? We've all been there. It gets your goat. You get pissed. Nah, ain't gonna happen to me again. And we all handle it different ways. I mean, do you have in-laws? Yeah, right, Nate? Just look at your in-laws, right? Thanks for the memories, Nate. Appreciate that. I moved my in-laws in with me a few times. Boy, we could tell stories there. And so what happens is we feel had and we feel stupid for being had. And the truth is there's not much you can do about it. But if you just ride that impulse rather than bury it, you'll grow and you'll learn to flow with change. If you bury it, it's going to come out and you're going to go kick the cat or do something really stupid in the market. So I just thought I'd digress into this, why we're following. And if you look into your experience, you'll see what I'm talking about. None of us likes to feel like somebody got the better of us or we were stupid with something. And trading, you're going to be wrong a lot because it's moving, it's live, you got to make decisions. It's changing. The more we can fluidly follow that change, the better off we are. Now, very simply in trading, a lot of times, all you really need to do is see what they're doing over and sell that and go away. It's not a bad strategy. Or, like we just looked at that Kiwi Swiss, it gave you a little last swing broke confirmation. Remember, look, this is almost a model of that members chart we looked at. Except in his model, we come down here and it gave a beautiful little last swing broke right here. And so you follow them down, you follow the legs down, then you follow the legs up. And if available, we're going to use an LSB. Okay? If available. This is just the beginning. This is a lot. Because guess what? You have to pick your frame. But I've taken care of that. No matter what frame you're in, major is the largest, minor is the next largest. And so this will clue us into all kinds of change. See, watch this. Watch if I draw a median line set according to Andrew's rules. According to Andrew's rules, he says there's a high probability of reaching the median line. I'm going back to Andrew's course. Now, a median line set is taking the A to B leg and projecting it from C like this. What's the next rule? Anybody remember the next of Andrew's rules? So he says there's a high probability of reaching the median line. It says price will either reverse at the median line or gap through it. Then what? Oh, you posted a solution for color in general? Thank you, Edward. I'll go look at that. Appreciate that. So Andrews, in the rules having to do with median lines, which has everything to do with swings, It says there's a high probability you take something out to its extreme. It's going to bounce back to center where it can either reverse or gap through it. And then he says if it gaps through it, there's a high probability of pulling back to it. So notice, built into the rule, if it goes through this median line to any degree, it's beat that length, hasn't it? Right, Grace? Right? Red got beat, now blue got beat. Does that make sense? So you can see how we can tie this into Andrews right here? Yes, right? You get it, Phil? Now, we have to arrange our minds when it's a standard median line versus a pullback median line, but the same thing. All right? And the median line is also representing some time here. But if you look at the length, you zoom through it, you're liable to pull back. Why? Because you're beating that. It makes sense. You're not going to find that in your grandfather's Andrews course. But it makes sense because that's what a median line does. At that point, does the reaction now become the impulse? Yes, it does switch. So right here, this is a reaction, right? This is a reaction leg. This is an impulse. So this impulse will now turn into the new reaction in this case, Raj. There you go. Edward posted the rules. Prices will reach the latest median line. Prices will either reverse on meeting the median line or gap through it. See, just drawing the median line, guys, is such a beautiful thing because it's 50% of the swing. If all you did was sell the median line, you wouldn't do half bad, but it's hard to manage your risk that way. When prices pass through, okay, they will pull back to it. And then we're looking at the next projection. When prices reverse before meeting it, they will go farther than they were going up, which is a Gopian's rule. It's just basically it's too pushy to do. That's usually where a push trade comes in. That impulse into reaction part always makes me pause. Yeah, I know, Grace. That's why we're going to sort of draw the model, because it does get rather confusing, especially once we get to doing it in real time and picking a frame to do it. The actual practice part, see, I'm very big on how-to practices, not, memorize this stupid little setup. I can draw the setup, right? I can go like this and say X marks the spot. We've done that. But if that's all you understand, then, you get here and you're like, oh, it didn't touch. Oh, it went a little bit past it. Oh, it did this. I didn't get a separation bar. I need this. And the whole time, the price might be going up. And you got no clue. So we want to understand what the median lines are describing. And this is a hard practice, Grace. Okay? Sometimes the impulse starts at the gap and not the LSB. Yes, as we go, Grace, we learn to see a little more deeper into swing structure. But don't do too much. Just, okay, when this flips, flip. When this flips, flip. And then we'll start thinking, and sometimes there is no LSB. I know, right? Good. So Grace is steeped in practicing. I could tell. She's steeped. She's practicing. She's running into all. Tell them how confusing this gets. It looks easy here, right? It gets frustrating and confusing, which is why we'll just keep doing it. And don't worry, guys, if you get confused. This is following. If you learn to change with change, you'll see trades that have nothing to do with this even. Your head exploded the other day, yeah. And then when we go to put money on the line, it gets a little bit more tense. But this is a lot better than looking at pressure cookers, presses, gaps, fibs, moving averages, what Brexit is doing. See, we're just seeing a wave. And it's all very organic. It's just either small waves or big waves. Now, ultimately, it can get as simple as this. You get about the length of this guy. You made a new low. and you get a little LSB confirmation. Okay, ultimately, it can get that simple. All right? So when you're down here, you can just paste this and look. And then this is like a little confirmation. So ultimately, trading can literally get that simple. And if it changes, well, then we change. Now, as we go into our practices, we'll also look at different types of confirmations or different types of, you know what else this can all be? This can all be the next pressure cooker, right? All right, now we're doing a little extra, but let's save that for later. Let's save that for later. Right now, I'm trying to design a practice that gets us moving and flowing with change. And we're following several live charts, and we're picking charts to do. And I want you guys to do practice. And come Friday, I'll give you guys some work to review your markets and see. Now, in practice, one thing that helps. So we'll take a picture of this. This isn't complete yet, but I think this, let me just add a few notes. Don't expect, all right? Follow. If it changes, change. Don't expect anything, okay? Nothing. This is going to keep our little minds busy following if we're following. And don't worry about the little tiny legs in between and the little tiny legs in between and the little tiny legs in between and the little tiny legs in between. Don't worry about all that. Majors, minors, all right? 86, everything else. So don't expect to work or not work. Just follow and practice. And then later on, we can take the pivots apart and make a few more observations in more detail. But we don't want to do too much at once. We don't want to do too much at once. So actually, let's take that out. See, that's too much. And after we get done designing a practice, this is how you should tackle your market in the beginning of the day is what I'm saying. We're going to design this. And this will tell you where you're at in your major, where you're at in your minor. If it turns, turn with it. Follow the major, and this is actually quite a lot to follow. Majors and minors on the way up, majors and minors on the way down. On this reaction leg, you can just follow the majors, all right? So rather than me tell you every little thing right now, this is enough to get us started that we can go grab markets and work. Any market, all right? You want to use this swing? Use this swing. Now, the other thing I'd like to take note of is the more data you use, the more your head's going to explode. Because you're taking in a lot more unless you can just see the wave. But with practice, it becomes easy. So I'm going to suggest in your practice, anytime you feel confused, zoom in. Like that. Do you see how that cleans it up a little bit? If that doesn't do it for you, zoom in like that, okay? Now, let's take this market. This is a daily euro. My definition is and by frame, I'm saying frame of data. And I'm saying don't be afraid to do this. So many of you are afraid to zoom in like this. Oh, but I got to know what's going on here. No, you don't need to know what's going on. Follow this. Doesn't this calm your mind a little bit more? Doesn't this give you a different picture? It does, right, Grace? Then if you're trying to do something like this, see, just look and see how that calms your mind a little bit more. And believe it or not, you can make trades based on this. So in your practice, when you get confused, rip the chart somewhere. We can start this chart literally. I could start this chart here and find majors and minors. Right? If I started this chart here, do you guys see what my major reaction leg is? And I want you to do this in your practice. I want you to be able, no matter what piece of data you get. See how that makes sense? See that? That's a high. They pull back to it. Oh, that's a major. It's very interesting. We've been coming down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, and it turns right there. Don't know what it does from that. And then we can also say, what's the minor? Well, boom. Minor got beat. All right, now we follow this leg. And guess what? In this frame, there is no LSB and there is no minor swing. We don't have anything yet, guys. There's no swing yet. Right? This would be the LSB here, wouldn't it? You guys see that? Since that's the minor, there's no other. See, it doesn't break it. Now, from this type of practice, if you open to it, you'll learn. Price. Then the goal of language of markets here, of having price teach you, that's my goal for everybody, to get to where price is teaching you guys what to do. I just need to set some how-to practices and some structure and define some things and keep us on track. But I want everybody to be able to learn from price and keep working in that direction. And price, you tell me what to do. So this is my last, so there is no last, it's funky, right? I want you to run into funky. And I want you to get curious too. Okay, hey, that's about the same. Now there's like a little bit of an order to this market. Minors, major. In just this little piece. And if it turns down, then guess what? I'll be following swings on the way down. Now the thing is, with a big time frame, well, it takes a while. And, we tend to get bored. So I suggest you grab random data, just for practice, just random data, doesn't matter what. Grab random data somewhere. I'm randoming out. And come in here and pick a smaller thing and practice. Say, oh, okay, where am I at here? I have a high. I have a low. One of these guys is going to tell me something. Oh, okay. Now I have a new swing. Okay, now it's going the other way. Now I'm going to check this way. I'm going to follow it this way. Now it's carving itself out, poking up a new high. Now I have a new one this way. Now I learned how a market can carve itself out. And now I have a minor. Things are starting to make some sense now. Now I got some things to follow. See, I'm just practicing without knowing. This way, if somebody takes advantage of me, big deal. I let it roll. And then I make notations. Okay, about the major, we turned. Make a new high. And, I just keep following and practicing. Okay, something's changed. Then I'll look for my LSB and go the other way, or use minors and majors. Boy, it really rolled from there, didn't it? Where would my LSB be in here, guys? See, if that was my major, that would have to be my LSB. I see, it's a lot of data now. Let's carry this guy on down. This would have to be my next biggest. Oy. Looks like my next biggest gave me a whole bunch of trades as the euro had a really bad year, huh? And then, red gets beat. So now I'll go like this. Now, we're going to follow. We don't really have an LSB, but wait a minute, now we have an LSB. All right, so blue got beat, and we have something of an LSB here. So we'll follow this way. And if it gets beat, we'll watch that and see how this unfolds. But we know this LSB got beat. Now we have to come in here and let this thing carve itself out a little bit, right? See, I want you to see it go into these transitions sideways. So red got beat, blue got beat. And then you guys do the following up and down. I'm not going to do it all. You guys do the following up and down. What we did was made a bigger swing here. Okay, so now you're it. Where's my LSB now? And then, you follow these legs up and down. So we're currently at that chart we started at, in that neighborhood. So we'll see. Now, I did that all really fast. But I want you guys to just grab anything and practice. And anytime you get along here and get confused, zap everything and start all over and ask yourself, what's the biggest swing? And then follow from there, okay? I want you to get confused. I want you to see the structure, because eventually price rolls itself into some interesting structure. And then we'll show examples, and I'll show you how I use these things in trade as well. So as you see, it's not the easiest practice in the world. I want you to fumble around a little bit with this thing. We have a few things live. What do we have live? HG? Let's see what we learned. Where did we leave HG off? Right here? Looking at the gray? Following the red? Made a new low. So it looks like the red held, punched into the length of the gray and is now changing. Don't get stuck on the red. See? Don't get stuck on the red. Go the other way. Go the other way. So I want everybody to begin to do some practice like that, and then we'll combine them with presses. Get a handle on the way price moves, the way swings swing, so on and so forth. And you'd be amazed how easy trades can land for you sometimes. Just following that. The nice thing the presses do is they start to show an organization after price has carved itself out and done its thing. So over time, you'll see how these two mesh together. All right, over time, you'll see how these two mesh together. And so we'll do a practice like this, and then, I don't know, maybe Monday we'll get back to our presses, and we'll think about just using presses alone by itself now that you've done some of this practice. But I like this as a way to start your morning, a way to start your week. I can't give you all the secrets. You got to go practice with them. You got to go practice with them, and then you got to go see. And if you have to, reverse engineer it to understand your swing structures. And remember, anytime you're confused, zoom in. Secrets, the secrets are in here. Edward's got to whisper them to you. I can't get them. Price got to tell you. Price has got them, really. Shh. All right. So thanks, Phil. Thanks, Edward. We're going to wrap it up there. Let's follow the end, all right, as long as we're watching. We'll follow the end. Red got beat. This was our biggest guy. Notice that it was just like the model, the LSB. See that? And we'll learn a little bit about how price moves from doing this, and by limiting a whole bunch of, extraneous stuff. All right? So if you go away, you do some practice, you're a bit confused, don't worry. We'll grab live markets. We'll keep working on it. And we'll come back on Friday. Thanks, Pete. Go do a little bit. We'll tighten this up. If all of the majors and minors are too much, just worry about this one, the major. Okay? Just back yourself up and worry about the major. And get curious. What's going to happen if price gets back here? And we'll see you guys on Friday. Take care.